Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and welcome to the Elder Scrolls 6 Wishlist series, a series designed to help dictate the future of the Elder Scrolls franchise. Every Thursday, or at least we try, at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we sit down and take a look at the future of Elder Scrolls. What can Bethesda add in to improve this formula? What should they take from previous games? And so on. This week, we're going to be focusing on cutscenes. Now, they can add a lot more to the story if Bethesda does them like the rest of the industry does. Now, this comment, I'm not sure if it was a typo, but regardless, the way he wrote it still triggered the thought of, oh, we could talk about cutscenes this week in my head. So, Mr. Duck says cutscenes for fuck's sake, or at least I'm assuming that's what he's trying to say. Regardless, thank you, Mr. Duck, because he gave me the idea for a video discussion topic. Now, yes, Bethesda Game Studios games, most recently Fallout 4, do have cutscenes to an extent where the camera flips around a little bit. Usually you're getting a side shot or an over-the-shoulder shot, but it's very much a restrained type of cutscene that could be much improved. Why is that? Why is cutscene such a big focal point? Well, number one, it's become a new standard in the industry. I think Bethesda should follow suit. We've seen it, for example, in BioWare's recent Mass Effect Andromeda, although that game isn't amazing still. I think it's a standard that needs to be set for RPGs going forward, is to include actual cutscenes. The reason that cutscenes need improvement, I think, in Bethesda Game Studios games is because you'll have a lot of moments that could be more emotional, more engrossing, more powerful, but they're not because of how the camera works, where it can clip into walls, because all the cutscenes are dynamic, where it has these set camera positions that the camera will move in, and it's not, for example, a specific cutscene where you have special animations for that cutscene and so on. And I think that drags down a lot of the experience where, for example, when you figure out Mayor McDonough and the truth behind him, that moment where he's pulling out the gun and pointing at you, he's got that vanilla animation and everything. It's very cheesy. It's not as gripping as it could be. And I feel like if they had a special cutscene of him running away and taking a couple shots at you, you taking cover behind a desk, I think that could have made, for example, just that tiny moment there a lot better. And these type of things are sprinkled throughout Fallout 4 where they're not bad in my opinion, but it's something that, like I said, stands to improve, and it's something Bethesda has lagged behind for many, many years. I mean, we're talking about the company that, for example, with Oblivion, now, mind you, that's a very old game, that's back in 2006, still, that was the game that froze people all around you except for the face talking to you. And then Skyrim, it was a big deal when that game actually had the world moving around with still people being able to talk to you. Don't get me wrong, Skyrim had a decent amount of dialogue options in comparison to RPGs at that point in time, but as I've iterated upon many times in this video, it's very much important that Bethesda starts getting real professional looking story cutscenes. At the very least, maybe your side quests can have those standard ones, but it also leads to a fluctuation of that feeling of quality when you're stepping into someone. Once again, I'm going to go back to Mass Effect Andromeda, where there'd be times where I'd get a side quest and the camera would kind of pan in and do a side view, and at that point I know, okay, this is going to be a bullshit side quest. But then there would be times there's actual cutscenes where you'd see the camera flicking around as we talk. We'd walk to a specific place, the camera would follow us. It felt like a more well thought out process, like, oh, I'm getting to something important. So for me as a gamer, I felt that was a bit immersion breaking because there were times I felt the game was telling me, this isn't that important, you don't really have to care about this, and this is pretty important, you should look into this quest because we clearly put more effort into it. So you're almost picking out what you want to see and what you're going to like about the game. I felt that it just wasn't an even playing field of effort in some certain ways. For those who have played Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm sure you get what I'm saying, but I think that's the problem Bethesda faces. And once again, we're going to take a look at The Witcher 3 and how there's basically a cutscene for every single conversation. It's a high effort, high budget project. I think it was above $80 million, but I think Bethesda has that type of money in the bank to make a game of that quality, to make an even bigger game maybe, because they have so much money from Fallout 4 and all their previous games that have sold exceedingly well. And Bethesda as a company in general is very wealthy. So I think a lot of the stuff we're asking for should be things that we could as fans expect from Bethesda, but still it's not something I'd want to have take away from the rest of the game, because here's what happens is that you make these games bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you start making sacrifices in certain areas. For an example, Mass Effect Andromeda's facial animations. Now, that's not the biggest game in the world, but still, that game is pretty big, especially for BioWare, and because of that, they sacrificed facial animations in many ways, shapes, and forms. So dare I say, sometimes it's one of those pick your poison moments with what you want to see in these next games, because there's always going to be a sacrifice in some way. But anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Duck, for your wish, I think. If it's intentional or not, let me know in the comments. But speaking of that, You guys go ahead and let me know in the comments where the conversation should go next week. I'm always curious to see what you guys are going to be talking about next. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are in the description down below. Be sure to consider contributing to the Patreon. It fuels all the content we create here. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.